Good morning, and thanks for waking up with us today. It's Monday morning, so you know what that means. We have Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare here in the studio with us today to get us smart on the issues of the day as it pertains to medicine.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We talked a little bit about the ACA, or the Affordable Care Act, off camera beforehand, and technology, and your new office out on the beach.
Yep.
And let's take one thing at a time. You know, the political season, you know, we've had the elections and all that stuff. Things are starting to shake out. What do you see as the future of the Affordable Care Act, and how does that impact your practice?
I think where the ACA was trying to go was to get more people in the system, which is a really good idea. We have lots and lots of folks. Just a couple weeks ago, I had a gentleman who hadn't been seen in 15 years.
Wow.
And decided that he was going to come in, didn't know, you know, and this happens a lot. We have folks that come in, something doesn't feel quite right, so they come in and decide to get a checkup, and he's a diabetic.
Wow.
And brand new, I mean, this is newly diagnosed, but he was so far down the road that he's probably been a diabetic for several years.
And not even known it.
And nope. And lots of other conditions are like that. Hypertension is like that. High cholesterol is like that.
So that's the upside of the ACA, that people who weren't previously
ideally,
getting,
that they'll come and seek
are
care.
Are people really availing themselves of that opportunity now?
We've had a lot of folks that come in, just because, well, they've been told they have to get insurance, and so they buy it, so they're buying it. It's kind of like, you know, getting a new gym membership or anything else. It's like, well, I'm paying for it, I might as well use it for at least a little bit. And for the most part, we've had really good success with folks coming in and either reassuring them that everything looks good, and here's the next steps in the road for prevention for you. And other folks that come in and it's like, well, here's what's off, and here's some things. Some of them are very simple in terms of you need to get some more iron and fiber in your diet, and you know, vitamin D and B12, those kinds of things to help replenish those levels. And then others are much more severe. You know.
It's almost astounding to me now, given the popular culture and the emphasis on health and fitness, that you see the messages all around. You know,
we do,
but people still don't really heed those messages.
It's because it's hard. And what's really sad about the situation, the government has tried to levy into this quite a bit, from what I've seen and read. Bad food, so processed food that's high in fat, sugar, and cornstarch and those kinds of things, is less than about a third of the cost of what good whole foods cost to make. So if you look at, you know, when you go around the grocery store, the outside aisles is all the fresh food that needs to be refrigerated or expires quickly. The cost on there is more than 3 times the cost of shopping in the middle with all the processed foods.
Wow.
So for folks that are living on a budget, and we have quite a few of those patients in our office where we're trying to teach them ways that they can get healthy. Some of them are just too busy where they can't actually get to the grocery store 3 or 4 times a week in order to get fresh fruit and fresh foods, or their kids are too busy, or some of them just have too many mouths to feed.
Well, you know, if you're like my wife, you shop like you're ready for a 3-month siege, and we have a big freezer in the garage where, you know, well, it'll be stocked up. There's always something frozen in there. And she tries to feed us healthily at home. But, you know, just as a practical matter, you know, canned goods, instant things. I mean, it's people are busy with their lives. They don't always have time to make a healthy salad or whatever.
Yeah, all of those processed foods tend to, they'll last longer, but they tend to be much less healthier for you. So, and that's half of what we do is with the nutrition programs that we've got. Is trying to teach folks about making smaller changes that will fit into your diet and your lifestyle and your budget. And to a certain number of them, it comes down to, well, look, you can continue to do what you're doing, and we'll medicate you to control your diabetes and your cholesterol and your blood pressure, and help prevent you from getting your next stroke before you're 55, you know, things like that. Or your knee replacement before you turn 50, those kinds of things. We can help you with all those things, but you got to make some conscious effort to it.
Yeah,
so.
You know, we take a lot for granted. When you're healthy, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young. When you're in your 20s, you're indestructible. You can eat anything, do anything, sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Who cares? As you get a little older, you start to
things slow down.
Things slow down a little bit. You start to pay a little more attention.
Yep.
And now with the Affordable Care Act, you've got people who may have been on that I don't care, I'm healthy thing. Now saying, hey, I might as well go in and have a checkup.
Right.
And they turn out not to be so healthy after all.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah, we have lots of other folks that are, particularly women in their 30s, that come in where they're more tired, and it's a very, very common complaint after they've had kids and they're kind of burnt out. So we do some work up stuff with them to help them out.
We got to run off to local weather. We'll talk more about that on the other side of your weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare. And we're having another stream of consciousness conversation about healthcare, which is always fascinating to me. We talked about the upside of the Affordable Care Act, where some people are, for the first time or in a long time, are coming to the doctor and saying, hey, check me out, doc. What's some of the downside of the ACA that you may have experienced in your practice?
Some of the stuff that we've seen is people will listen to the marketers from the insurance companies, where the insurance company will say, you won't lose any benefits and your premiums will go down. So who wouldn't want that, right? What they don't tell them is, oh, by the way, the doctor that you have had or that's been taking care of you isn't part of our new plan because we're going to pay them less. So you'll have to switch doctors. And so that's one of the...
So you can't keep your doctor, really.
Right.
And despite all the assurances.
Yeah, you have to go to a different doctor, and we've had a number of them that decide, once they've switched, they realize that I don't like this other care that I'm getting. I'm going to come back here, so they end up paying out of pocket to MCS until they can switch back to the other services.
Wow.
And there's a whole lot of marketing behind that, trying to get patients to switch so that they can go to a different set of doctors that take less money.
So the insurance companies really have a captive audience, don't they?
Oh, they do. Yeah, that's the biggest problem with it is with ACA. A lot of the stuff that the government tried to assure, which was, you couldn't deny patients health care, or you couldn't, change it based on a pre-existing condition and those kinds of things. They didn't tell them that they couldn't upcharge them by quite a bit to say.
So there are loopholes in the ACA.
Oh, yeah, in essence, to make it essentially unaffordable. But on the good side of things, patients are paying a lot closer attention to what used to be a benefit. It used to be something like, oh yeah, my company provides my health care benefits, and they just take it out of my paycheck. Well, now when you're looking at the difference between $200 a paycheck coming out of your pocket versus going into your bank account, they'll start to pay more attention, like, well, wait a minute, how often do I really go to the doctor? Okay, if I go to the doctor a lot, then I'll keep the high-end plan. And if I don't go to the doctor very much and just get my checkups and stuff, then I can go with the with the less expensive plan and put more money in my pocket.
What they call the bronze plan or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, those kinds of things. So there's some positives there. The negatives still come down to, we talked about technology. There's been a lot of push and want to go to remote visits and things like that, like telephone visits.
What exactly is a remote visit?
Well, we have the technology now, with Facebook and Skype, Skype and...
Uvu and all those other things.
Yeah, well, what's the other one? Tango is another one, and there's a half a dozen services out there.
Sure, I think even...
FaceTime is the one I was thinking of with Apple, where you can actually have a face-to-face conversation with somebody, but it's really just face-to-face. And so on one hand, it's useful for folks that are just getting checkups or refills of their medicines and things.
Oh, you're looking at their labs and you're consulting them.
Exactly. You can talk with them about that, and you can do that remotely without having them in the office. The problem is that when the patient's not in the office, the insurance company will only reimburse you a fragment of what it would cost, what you would normally get reimbursed for the same amount of work.
So there's really no incentive for the doctors to use that kind of technology.
Not yet. No, they've been talking about it, and there's still a whole lot of chatter on it on AMA and those types of forums about how to make that better. They have another code that they just approved this year for care coordination for.
So I just want to back up a minute with that face-to-face type thing. So in other words, maybe a good percentage of your visits could be accommodated remotely through technology.
Correct.
But we're not doing that because you're not getting reimbursed properly for that time.
Yeah, we actually lose money on those. It's like Medicaid patients. The reimbursement from Medicaid, for every Medicaid patient we see, we actually lose money.
Yeah.
We don't even get enough money to pay the lights on the head, much less anything for the provider to actually see the patient.
And in the final equation, you've got to keep this going concern called a practice in business.
Yeah.
And that's just bad business then.
Well, it's we love what we do, and we love taking care of patients, and so to a large extent we end up taking more money on one side or making a little more profit on one end to be able to provide care for other folks. And the insurance companies, I think, are trying to do that as well, to say, okay, well, we have these folks over here that don't use their insurance, and so we can take care of these folks over here. But in the end, on the whole, I haven't seen any insurance company saying that they've lost money in any of these processes.
The insurance companies come out the big winners, and the doctors and the patients are the ones that are paying for this.
That are paying for the difference, yes, sir.
Oh, geez. And there were other things, and we only have a few seconds left, but there were other things that are happening technologically, that could certainly make it easier for patients and doctors.
We have remote monitoring for sleep monitors and for blood pressure monitors, even heart rate monitors. Everything's all cellular now, and it'll transmit the data back.
So you don't even have to go to the doctor's office for a sleep study. You can do it at home.
Nope. Yeah, they have it now where they mail the kit to your house and do that. So, and some of the insurance companies are pushing it to go that way. Others are saying, nope, we don't validate that technology, so now you still have to go to the lab.
Well, as is often the case with mankind, our technology is outpacing our tactics.
That is true. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah.
And
the technology is outpacing our social ability to adapt to it.
Well, I look forward to coming out and visiting your new office
Yes,
soon.
sir.
You're out on the beach now, so there's no excuse not to go to Nation's Healthcare. Nation's Family Healthcare. Nation's Best Family Healthcare. Got it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Nation, and we'll see you next time. And we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Today, we're going to be talking about oil leaks. There's nothing more annoying than to move your car and see that big, black, grimy oil stain underneath your vehicle where it used to be parked. Oil leaks aren't only embarrassing, they're an indication of a problem and must be taken care of immediately. Gaskets and seals are what keep oil inside the motor. There are dozens of gaskets on the engine. There are gaskets on top of the motor, there are gaskets on bottom of the motor, there are gaskets on the left side, and there are gaskets on the right side, in the front, in the rear. Any one of these gaskets can fail, causing an engine oil leak. Oil leaks can evolve into a very serious repair. Should you not replenish the oil as you lose it, oil will not be available to lubricate the internal moving parts of the engine. Engine failure can occur. Some vehicles have gaskets that protect oil from getting on top of the spark plug. Should oil get on top of the spark plug as you're driving, a misfire condition will occur. Your car will spit and sputter and act like it's going to die while driving down the road. You'll think it's a very serious repair, but it's not. Best advice is to get it into a repair facility and have them check it. Replace the valve cover gasket and the valve cover grommets. The grommets are what separate the engine oil from the spark plugs. Clean the spark plugs and you should be good as new. Best advice, if you have an oil leak, take it to your trusted auto repair facility. Have them identify the oil leak and fix the problem correctly. I am David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247 and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neuro Pain Specialists. And today I want to talk a little bit about tolerance. You hear anecdotally how people say, oh, that doesn't work on me. You know, that drug doesn't work on me anymore. I mean, is that a true phenomenon where someone takes enough drug or painkiller where it just stops working after a while?
Yeah, it certainly is a real phenomenon, and it's described in medical literature quite well, and it's usually associated with well, commonly described with narcotics, but many controlled substances have that property. So tolerance is something that we have to approach and deal with on a daily basis in our practice in managing chronic pain.
And what happens if someone does become tolerant of a drug? Does that mean they've been overprescribed? Does that mean they've been taking it too much, maybe without your knowledge? Do you need to switch up on them? I mean, to another medication?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean they've been overprescribed or they're taking too much. I mean, sometimes the way the chemicals in the brain work is that you can, develop or need to have additional drug to achieve the same effect, which by definition is what tolerance is. I find a lot of times in my patient population, if I really sit down and have a discussion with the patient, oftentimes there's other issues that are going on that may need to be addressed. Because there are certainly times where I will increase the drug because I feel like it's important or necessary to do that. But a lot of times I find that either patients, the procedure we've done on them or the issue they've had that needed to be treated in the past with therapy or an injection has now worn off and needs to be repeated. Perhaps they developed a new issue that needs to be worked up and treated. And sometimes I find that there's a lot of stressors going on in their life that might be causing increased anxiety or depression, which sometimes can also cause their perception of pain to increase. So we always want to make sure that we're approaching all of the different avenues that could be contributing to the patient's reports of increased pain or lack of effect from the drug.
I find it very interesting that if someone's going through a stressful time, like perhaps maybe a divorce or a death of a family member or whatever, that can change your perception of pain.
Well, that's always a touchy one, because we want to make sure that we let the patients know that we believe that they're hurting and that their reports that the pain is not as well controlled, because we certainly don't want to imply that it's, quote, in their head, because sometimes that becomes certainly offensive.
Right.
But there are plenty of studies out there that have shown that when an individual is depressed or anxious, their pain score, their pain reporting goes up as well.
Is that because their body chemistry is somehow changed because of the stress?
Well, that's certainly one theory. That's a phenomenon that's not always well understood. But when someone is anxious or depressed, sometimes their coping strategies are not as healthy as they might otherwise would be. There are some changes in the neurochemicals in the brain that allow them to perceive pain differently. So sometimes they will report their pain is less well controlled, and when a thorough examination and evaluation has been performed and no other cause can be found, sometimes if there is a lot of anxiety going on or a lot of stresses in someone's life, addressing those stressors will sometimes, as a multidisciplinary approach to managing the patient, will help bring down their pain scores as well. So that's something that certainly needs to be paid attention to, not to imply that it's all in their head. That's not the case at all, but it's certainly something that needs to be looked at.
So what do you do with someone like that? I mean, is psychotherapy an option? I mean, or is it just a drug change, or is it counseling? I mean, how would you answer that complaint that I'm under so much stress that my painkillers aren't working anymore?
Yeah. Well, the answer is all of the above. Sometimes there are patients that are in tune to that. They have good insight into the fact that their life is a big ball of stress right now, and they feel like that's the major contributing factor. So those patients are usually receptive to counseling or talking to someone or different types of therapies. Maybe an antidepressant or something to help with that is often needed. The one where it gets a little bit more challenging is the person who maybe doesn't feel that's the case or doesn't have insight into that. But certainly group counseling and working with a therapist can be very helpful, as well as adjustments in medication to help bring that down.
Yeah.
But certainly chronic pain and anxiety can go hand in hand.
And I would imagine there's a certain spiritual dimension to that as well. And I think we might have talked about it at one point as well. People of faith, being able to rely on your faith to help ease some pain is always helpful too.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree 100% with that. And everybody's different. In this area of Florida, faith is something that I find that a lot of patients are subscribed to and believe in, and it's something that we certainly encourage when it seems appropriate. But yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, it's better than any drug, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Aaron Shores, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Thomas Winterman, the author of The Thrive Life, which is a wonderful book. If you don't have it already, you need to go out on Amazon and get it. You'll live a better life because of it. Thomas, you've been coming in here giving us Thrive Thoughts and a Thrive Thought for the week. How should we go into the week this week? What Thrive Thought should we keep in mind?
For this week, it's to take responsibility. One of the great psychiatrists of our time, William Glasser, said that in therapy, somebody cares enough about the patient to make him face a realization he has spent his whole life trying to avoid, that he alone is responsible for his own behaviors. A lot of times we get caught up in blaming external things for the stuff that we do. We tend to blame other people, like, oh, she made me mad, so that's why I did what I did.
Yeah.
But really, when it comes down to it, everything that we do, every action we take is our own responsibility.
It's how we react and how to the outside world. You really can't blame other people for your own actions.
Right.
So by taking responsibility, how does that benefit a person?
You gain what they call an internal locus of control, which is where you start to realize
internal locus
that's
of
right.
control. Okay.
That's right. We're getting graduate school stuff here. That's when you start to realize that everything that happens is really your choice as a result of what you do, and you start to look inward and you start to gain those traits that help you to better control your life rather than just allowing yourself to be pushed or pulled one way or another by what happens.
And I think people are happier when they feel like they're more in control. When you feel like you're out of control of your situation, that's a lot of frustration there.
And it's a good way to avoid taking responsibility by blaming other people and other things for what's going on in your life.
not my fault, not my job,
That's
I
right.
didn't know. You know, you've got to look at yourself and say, it was my job, or I should have known.
Right.
And, you know, I can make it my job, and keep yourself accountable. And it doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up, does it?
No, absolutely not. But what it does mean, really, is being responsible and realizing that you are in control.
Yeah, so staying in control, you know, you have to be honest with yourself, though. And how do you get to that point? Because some people are really good at self-deception. I mean, you could talk yourself into almost anything.
Well, it's like anything else. You know, this is however old you are is how long you've been doing life, and if you've been doing it one way, you can't just unravel it in a day.
You can't do it
in a
yourself.
week. You can't do it at all by yourself. No. So it's a process, just like everything else. You slowly build to it. You slowly work towards it. But by starting now, that's how you start that journey.
Yeah, and if you don't have the professional help, just read the book. Thomas Winterman, The Thrive Life. Thank you for that Thrive tip for the week, and we look forward to your next tip next week. And that'll be it for today, and have a great week. We'll see you next time.